Greetings and welcome to our final review in the What's Smoking Hot 2020 video review series. I've really enjoyed bringing these cigars to you, and today I'm going to look at the final Trinidad addition to the 50th anniversary releases, the Trinidad Topaz. Now, if you're familiar with this cigar already, it's because you've heard of it before. It was released 3 years ago as a limited edition in 2016, and my God, it was really popular. So popular, in fact, that Habanos Jose brought it back as a regular production. But there are some differences with this cigar, just minor differences, maybe more so in the flavour. And I'll discuss this more in the review as I smoke it down. It's not the first time Habanos Jose have brought a limited edition into regular production. I can think of the Joya de Monterrey Epicura Special and the H. Upmann Magnum 50 as two prior examples of limited editions that have been brought into regular production. But there's a couple of other things to discuss in this review other than just the fact that this cigar's come back. Also, we're going to discuss the larger ring gauge on this cigar, of course, and we're also going to discuss its relation to the other two Trinidad regular production cigars, the Esmeralda and the Media Luna, which I've also done in this series. So I'm going to light this up and come back and discuss this cigar further in the first third. Now, in regards to the ring gauge, it's a 56 ring gauge. It's a large ring gauge. In fact, one of the largest ring gauged Habanos cigars currently available. I mean, I can think off the top of my head the Joya de Monterrey La Joya de Rio Seco is another 56 ring gauge cigar. We've had 56 ring gauge cigars before, such as the Magnum 56 limited edition, and they were quite popular, the Magnum 56 and the Joya de Monterrey La Joya de Rio Seco, quite popular cigars despite those ring gauges. One thing I can tell you, though, in regards to this Trinidad cigar is, as you may be aware, or you may not be, all Trinidad cigars are classified as premium cigars from Habanos Jose's point of view, and they all have pigtails. Now, every other Trinidad cigar that's smaller in ring gauge, I find them a lot easier to take the pigtail off with my thumbnail. But if you're going to take off the pigtail off this Topaz at 56 ring gauge, I would advise you to be just a little bit more careful, because there's a less give. I feel when you take when you untwist that pigtail, there's just a bit less give, and it's much easier to rip the wrapper around the head. And I've done that. I know I'm speaking from experience. I've done that, so that's why I'm advising you just to be a bit more wary if you're going to take off the pigtail with your thumbnail. I can't say that I've done that on other Trinidad cigars with smaller ring gauges. Now, the other thing I wanted to also mention is the larger girth at the foot of the cigar, lighting it up. Take your time lighting it up. Light it up correctly. If you compare this to a Fundadores, which is only 40 ring gauge, it's a lot easier to light up, a lot easier to take the pigtail off with your thumbnail. This requires a little bit more patience just to get it. It's important to get an even burn, again from experience. And I've worked hard to do that. I may need to just touch that up just a little bit, which I'll do in a second. But I took quite a bit of time to light that up. Probably about 2 or 3 times longer than what I normally take to light up a cigar. Anyway, 56 ring gauge. Now, if you go on Habanos Jose's website, they say that the larger ring gauge cigar like this one is designed to give you a richer feel on the palate in comparison to a smaller ring gauge cigar, which is designed to be sharper on the tongue and tends not to have ligero leaf. Now, that's on Habanos Jose's website if you want to research that and look that up for yourself. What I can tell you from previous experience smoking this cigar and the Hoya de Monterrey de Rio Saga that I've done in this series, and also the Magnum 56s, yes, they are, like Habanos Sisse says, they are richer in feel on the palate. They tend to have pack quite a bit of flavour. And this topaz is no different to the Esmeralda and the Media Luna in terms of its body. It packs a lot of flavour in there. Um, just from the first few puffs through the first third, I'm getting um, a lot of smoke, a lot of flavour. I'm getting uh, a little bit of that coffee and cake dough, but more of a really pleasant butter croissant pastry type texture to the cigar. A little bit of coffee, uh, salt or spice. It's all there, like similar to flavors to the Esmeralda and the Media Luna. But I would say that the difference is that the butter texture is more like quality butter pastry. Like think of a croissant. That's what it feels like on my palate. Um, and I don't think it's any less um, uh, preferable in terms of flavour than the Esmeralda and the Media Luna at this point. There's just more different. Maybe there's slight differences in the strength of the cigar, and I'll talk about that more later. Um, so let's talk about why the cigar came back. And if you've uh, watched my Esmeralda review, which I went into quite a length discussing the history of Trinidad as a marker, um, and more specifically the Habanos version, not the non-Cuban version. You'd know that at the time in 2012, when the Robusto T and the Robusto Extra were deleted, that the marker was in, for want of a better word, the doldrums. And the reason for that is Habanos Sisse always look at Trinidad in comparison to its performance with its other premium marker, Cohiba. And at that time, it wasn't doing so well in relation to demand for Cohiba. Now, fast forward 7 years to the 50th anniversary, and Trinidad is doing a lot better. The demand for Cohiba, especially in the Chinese market, is still quite strong. And kudos to Habanos to say that, in my view, they've successfully um, offset that demand for Cohiba in the Chinese market by bringing out these quality Trinidad releases, and they've been good sellers. But before this, what had happened was the VGA came out in 2014, and more importantly, in 2016, the Topaz, this same cigar, slightly different, came out in 2016, and it was a great seller. Its reputation was universally, it got critical acclaim at the highest level that you can get. If you go on YouTube, or if you go on the internet and research reviews, they're pretty much all of them appraise this limited edition 2016 Topaz. And look, if you want to know how this 2019 regular production cigar is smoking in comparison to what the 2016 was at the time, well, what I want you to think about is the differences in those cigars. And the differences in those cigars is basically the wrapper. The wrapper on the 26 limited edition, and in fact the filler and the binder. And if you go on, if you look at the leaflet and go on Habanos Sisse's website, they'll tell you that the wrapper, filler, and the binder were aged for 2 years on that limited edition, and it had a slightly more Colorado Maduro look to those wrappers. It was different to the wrapper that's on these regular production cigars. And as a result, those limited editions have had these core flavour Trinidad traditional flavours such as coffee, wood, salt, the butter texture. They were there. A bit of earth, maybe a bit of nut. So those complex Trinidad traditional flavours, but because of the wrapper, those limited editions were more cocoa and more sweeter. In fact, I've read reviews that people even say that they had coconut in them. One or two reviews that I read, which is interesting. I never really got that coconut sweetness, but I have noted, even at the beginning of this cigar, some of these Trinidad regular production cigars, you get a gingerbread type sweetness. So I would think of the sweetness a bit like that, but even more amplified because of the cocoa wrapper or the cocoa that you got off the wrapper off that 2016 limited edition. I may need to touch that up, but so far so good. I will touch that up, and I'll come back as I'll smoke this cigar down. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the review, you really need to take your time to light this up correctly. And I missed a small spot at the bottom of the cigar, and like I had to just correct that. And now that's just that's ashing beautifully. Beautiful cylindrical ashes there, ridges, just fantastic. At this point, towards the middle of the cigar, it's picked up on wood and earth flavors, but it's still very very rich on the palate. There's a lot of smoke, and it's just smoking wonderfully. Uh, I'll smoke that down a bit more and discuss the cigar further. So that's continuing to burn wonderfully. Ash is fantastic. Um, Plenty of smoke per draw, so it's everything you want from a premium cigar. Now, let's also talk about the cigar in relation to the Robusto T that was deleted in 2012. Now, in my mind, this is Habanos SA's replacement for that cigar. It's if you go on Cuban Cigar website, it is classified as a Robusto. They're about the same length, 4 and 7/8 inches. The Robusto T was 124 millimeters in length. This is 125, but of course, it's 6 ring gauge points bigger, 50 ring gauge to 56. And if I was to equate a normal Robusto size cigar, such as the Partagas Series D4 or the Cohiba Robustos, which are both 50 ring gauge cigars, that'd take me about 70 minutes to smoke. I think you should allow yourself around 90 for this one. On top of the fact that it's so rich, it takes time to savor it. You don't really want to smoke any of these Trinidad regular production cigars. There's Esmeralda Media Luna or the Topaz quickly, in my view. I might just ash that, even though I'm tempted to keep it going. Certainly much more earthy and wood flavours and salt or spice there. That initial coffee and cake dough and croissant element to it, it's still there, but it's diminished somewhat in comparison to the wood and the earth that I'm getting towards the middle of the cigar. I'll smoke that down and come back into the last third and give my concluding thoughts on the cigar. So coming into the final third, and I've ashed that long ash, and it's getting another long ash coming up now, and it's still smoking really well. Still plenty of smoke per draw. Still plenty of flavour on the palate. Those savoury flavours still there. Has that certainly that coffee wood and earth. There is still that buttery texture that I described at the beginning there. But I'm finding myself having to smoke it even a lot slower. So let's conclude this cigar review by discussing this Topaz in relation to the Esmeralda and the Media Luna. Um, in my opinion, it's a good cigar, but it hasn't got uh, the critical reputation perhaps that the Hoyo de Montre La Hoya de Rio Seco enjoys, and I think that's because the De Rio Seco is um, uh, perhaps more distinctive on its own in comparison to the De San Juan, and this isn't as distinctive on its own in comparison to the Esmeralda and the Media Luna. All three of those cigars, to me, have very similar blends, very similar flavour profiles, but the Esmeralda is Habanos SA's version of the Siglo 6, in my opinion. And the Media Luna is their Petit Robusto offering. And this Topaz, I guess, in aficionados, from an aficionado point of view, competes with those two for attention, and those two cigars have been more popular since their release. But this is no less as good a cigar as those two, in my opinion. It's just that the Esmeralda is more refined in terms of strength. The Media Luna would have to be the strongest. It tends to smoke a bit above medium, and this is right on the medium. But yeah, look, it's still a good cigar. And if you were to reach for this, or to pick up this as an acquisition, you won't be disappointed. But you couldn't be blamed for reaching for the Esmeralda and the Media Luna more often than the Topaz. You've just got more competition there, I suppose, than if you compare the De Rio Seco in the Hoyo de Montre line, or the Magnum 56 and the H. Upmann. They sort of stand out on their own a bit more. That's, to me, the only difference. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your time uh, and for joining me on this journey across 14 wonderful cigars that have smoked fantastically in 2020. And look, I hope and I wish you a happy new year in 2021. Let's hope it's a much better year than 2020. And also hope that you smoke some great cigars during 2021, and that the recent uh, prevalence for 2020 cigars to smoke so fantastically young. I hope that continues in 2021. So until next time, happy smoking, and I look forward to seeing you some point in 2021 when I present some more cigars for review. Until then, again, happy smoking. Bye for now.